Welcome back, everyone. Today's video is going to be a bit different from my normal things because I'm seeing a setup that looks fairly interesting here in Trevali mining. And it is a very high risk but high potential setup. And as such, it is definitely not investment advice. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I see and why it's interesting. Now, before I begin, I just want to share this disclosure. I do own shares in Trevali. It is not a long-term investment. It is a speculation. It's very high risk, option money, hopefully high reward, but we have to see. Now, the crux of the thesis here is a leverage to a zinc price from a attractive entry point. Now, if you're a zinc bear, not for you. It's amazing that you lasted this long, really. But the point here is I think there's a little margin of error, and I think that there's potential for if the zinc price can stay here or go a bit higher due to any number of factors that I'll discuss, then this could do quite well. If the zinc price falls too much, then this could do quite horribly. So the thesis here is as the economy, and particularly autos and other steel using, galvanized steel using industries kind of ramp up, then the zinc market is pretty tight right now in terms of available inventory and supply. Well, as you know, in mining, supply is not necessarily the fastest to react. So I think the market, there's a bit of wiggle room here for the market to maybe stay at prices a bit higher because it can't afford to take big risks with the price going low because supply might come offline at this particular juncture. So I think that the tightness is a decent support for zinc. And then I think, well, if you get some type of infrastructure stimulus, if the US dollar continues to trend lower, if there's inflation, all this stuff could be good for commodities, and zinc is a very high beta commodity. So the bet here is that the price of zinc will stay above, let's call it $1, and eventually until the recovery is more complete, and probably eventually go even higher than that. Now, the company specific thesis is there is a crazy amount of leverage. Now, I'm not saying the people running the company I'm crazy. I'm just saying that the setup here involves crazy amount of leverage. If the price of zinc goes below 95 cents, they're trying to get it down to 90. We'll see. But for now, let's call it, if it goes below 95 cents, then this starts to have issues. But for every 5 cents above, let's call it the break-even point, the company can make 17 million US dollars in EBITDA. So if you get to, well, we'll go into the math, I guess, a bit later, but the market cap of this company is such that there's a lot of potential leverage here. Now, yes, there's debt, and I think that has been a concern for the market, but I think also that the new credit facility announced yesterday eases the liquidity concerns in the near term, plus the prices of zinc, while it was in the trough, and there was probably a number of significant concern about that, it's now back in the range where the company can make money. So it's not decaying slowly anymore. It's, okay, this company can now make a little bit of money at this zinc or maybe a bit lower. It's not like, well, it's heading towards bankruptcy, something better change soon. No, it's prior. So I prefer that setup to the slowly decaying. So in terms of the risk reward setup, the risk is a zero. And I'm not saying there's zero risk, the opposite. I'm saying this company can go to zero. So it's not for full investment money. This is for option money for high risk. Now the reward, well, I think that the cycle midpoint for zinc is probably in the at least above 110, probably 115 to 120 range. So if zinc were to eventually get there without the company diluting you to oblivion or some variant of that, Well, then that would mean 80 million US in EBITDA. And for reference, that's more than the market cap of the company right now. As we sit here, it's 12 and a half cents Canadian as I speak. And I think that given the change in what happened between yesterday and today, I think that there's just been a significant change, and I don't really think it's up enough because if this setup continues, I think that there's exceptional value potential here. So with that 80 million potential in EBITDA, I mean, you discount for the debt, you discount for risk, discount for, you know, everything you want to discount for, but I still see value potential. So I just want to make some comments here because the history of this company and the value kind of go together in the wow, this is, I don't really know what's going on here. Um, just because if you look at the history, I mean, there was a raise at a buck 20 Canadian, which is more than 10 times, or well, about 10 times the price, I guess. Um, and then it went even higher than that on because it was making money. And so when the stock's making money, the market has an idea of what it's worth, then it stops making money and the market has an idea of what it's worth. And so it's really hard to guess at what the thing will be then and what the market will think it's worth if it's successful. So I don't really have a price target, and also very much depends on execution along the way and how the market evolves. So don't really have that there. And the history, you know, there's raise to buy assets. They 3 years ago paid 264 million Canadian for two of their four operating assets, and now their market cap's 100 million. I mean, I'm not saying that it was wrong then or right now. I'm just saying there's just very volatile. So again, watch out because very real risk that this goes to zero if things go poorly. Anyway, everyone, that's it for today. Remember, this is definitely not investment advice. I know there's plenty of interesting zinc names out there. I just like my thesis as simple as possible, and the less randomness along the way, the better. So, I mean, there's always randomness in the market, but I just can grasp what this thesis means and what has to happen, and I think it's decent risk reward. Again, I'm just speaking out loud here. I'm not suggesting anyone do anything.